Hi everyone, this is Mary Piggott and I'm going to talk about copyright issues and legal issues on the internet and how they can affect us in the classroom and why it's important for us to know about this stuff. So first I want to talk about some interesting things I found in the articles. The first thing I really was interested in was the peer-to-peer sharing article and that they found that there was no statistically significant effect on record sales according to the article. Um, to me, this made a lot of sense. I went through college in the mid 2000s when peer to peer sharing was kind of running rampant. And, I downloaded a lot of stuff, but I also bought albums. And so to say that it kept me from buying albums that I normally would have isn't really accurate. It was kind of, I don't know, if you like the artist, you go buy the album, show support. That at least that's the attitude I have. I know it's not for everybody, but this a lot of most of the stuff I downloaded, I wouldn't have gone out and bought the album anyways. Um, but I eventually stopped, and I actually have a nice prop here. This is the White Stripes' Icky Thump. It came out in 2007, and I remembered that this was the first album that I bought that had the anti-piracy warning on it. And, after hearing all this stuff, like in the OU video, people getting sued and things like that, I was like, okay, it's time to stop. So eventually stopped altogether. And, most of us switched to iTunes, which to me is pretty much what I agree with the most of that article is that it's just new technology. It's not peer-to-peer sharing or the fact that people are getting it for free. It's ultimately the fact that you can just buy one song that you like that you hear on the radio all the time instead of the whole album. Um, you know, I think I mean, it's just like cassettes bumped 8 tracks out and CDs bumped cassettes out. It's just a new technology progressing. So that kind of leads right into my second point of discussion, which is just copyright issues. Okay, so the record companies and artists were getting upset that their copyrighted material wasn't being paid for and distributed freely. And these issues are still alive and well today. Originally, the second article we read said there were there were thoughts that copyright wouldn't even be able to be enforced online, that it wouldn't be an issue just because everything was out there. But there's been enough technology progression and pushback from record companies and production companies that things are being enforced. You're always seeing videos not available online from copyright issues. I'm pretty sure there's at least one person who works for YouTube that just sits around and deletes videos off the internet all day. Um, and then there's just different methods that companies are using. And while like in the OU video, just putting up a huge sum of money as kind of just making examples out of people. I mean, that was effective, and even like Icky Thump, the little anti-piracy label. I mean, that was enough for me. So I think it was the third article, the Waterman article, that talked about most people don't want to break the law. They don't want to do illegal things. So once it was pretty popular, it was well known, I should say, that pirating was illegal and people were being punished for it. I think a lot of people stopped. And then again, kind of like me, the people who continue to do it may not have necessarily contributed to the profits anyways. Um, you know, there's still enough, especially for movies, like there's still enough of a scene that you want to go to the movies, you want to get popcorn, and movie production companies are making plenty of money anyways. But the point is that well, again, it's like the peer-to-peer sharing, I guess, or the free access, illegal access isn't necessarily costing the money. That doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it right. I'm just saying that it's not cutting into profit at all, according to the first article. But copyright is an issue. Copyright is an issue, especially when you get into areas where it's not for profit. Okay, so if I just went to Google and tried to find these 3 articles we had to read, it'd probably be pretty difficult because they're protected by, okay, so I can only access these articles if I log into Blackboard through Ashland using my specific password and things like that. And I'm sure I would get in trouble if I just uploaded it to my Google Sites or something. I mean that can't be okay. And even if you use the Ashland Library, the online library search, they don't have access to everything. They want you to pay for it, which I guess it makes sense. Like these people are working really hard. I guess it would depend too on who's publishing the paper. If it's a magazine or a well-established journal or something, they're gonna want their money for it. They own the rights now, and they're gonna profit off of that. Um, but again, it comes down to me in my classroom, which is what I'm going to talk about next, is just plagiarism and making sure you give credit where credit is due. And I think that line can get blurred on the internet. So I want to talk first, before I get into plagiarism in the classroom, about liability issues. This is probably the biggest concern I have as a teacher of 30 students at a time, all on their own laptops at a time. Um, who's liable in this case? Okay, so for example, this is a true story. We had an incident in my school where a student somehow managed to watch, okay, this is just all, so many illegal things happening, managed to watch the first hour of 50 Shades of Grey on a laptop in a classroom without the teacher knowing it. And a student reported it to another teacher, so it got reported to the administration. So the student got in trouble. The teacher got in trouble a little bit. She couldn't use the laptops anymore with the whole class. And it just calls into question, well, is administration liable then? I guess in one of the articles, in the second article we read, they talk about how, in some cases they're trying to blame all the way up to the internet service provider. Well, okay. So, had the parent, I guess if the teacher hadn't have acted, if the administration hadn't acted, could the district have been sued for not blocking that website, or not shutting down that streaming, for not monitoring the activity and, seeing this huge spike? That could just be a district-wide, there's just not enough manpower in Columbus City schools to monitor all the activity going on all the time, even though they say they do. It's just not possible. But so it's just, and what about me? Like, I don't know, it's kind of scary. I can get in trouble for something like that, I guess, ultimately, right? If the liability chain seems to just flow up, so I guess that's just something to think about. And that's just one way. That's all the issues in one, manifesting in one instance in a classroom. And then even if 50, whatever production company made 50 Shades of Grey, could they have come after the district if they found out that the district was streaming it to a student illegally off some website? Would the website get in trouble with the district? So it's just, it's pretty unclear there. But I do think that liability is becoming more clear. Just for instance, this case came at a pretty interesting time to be in this class. Just a couple days ago, the man who invented Silk Road, the illegal, the black market online, got sentenced to life in prison. So there's liability there. And I don't know much more about the case as far as if people using the black market got in trouble. I certainly haven't heard of any of them being sentenced to life, though. What about all the internet service providers that allowed their customers to access that? I guess there's just one example of people being held accountable for their actions online, and I think that's a good thing. Um, but so back to copyright plagiarism in the classroom. Um, Man, plagiarism is like a pandemic in my district, and for me personally, it's too big of a battle to fight, and I'm going to get into that, which makes me sad. Um, but so I teach. I'm a content teacher for the virtual program in my district, and I probably have the first two sentences of the Wikipedia article on tectonic plates memorized because it gets submitted to me so often. Um, my answer is I just reject it and say, please don't copy from Wikipedia or any other site. You know, create your own, create your own work. And I'm in the business of passing people and giving passing grades, so I can't give them a 0. If it's a virtual program, I can't discipline them, which disciplining for plagiarism isn't anywhere near the top of the issues list as far as behavior goes at my school. So I just feel stuck a lot. What do I do? And so I think about it, and when I can, I just adjust my assignment. I make them produce something original, something that can't be plagiarized. Um, that's the best option. But again, if I don't have the administration to support me, if I don't have other teachers doing, with the same attitude, if I don't have the technology that works to support me, it makes it really, really difficult um, of a battle to fight alone, like I said. So, a lot of this too, as I'm thinking about it, the plagiarism issues and the liability issues, a lot of it can be solved with a really good AUP. If liability is laid out pretty clearly in the acceptable use policy, maybe me personally as a teacher might not fear so much what would happen if I see a student doing something wrong, or if I don't. I guess the bigger issue would be if I don't see a kid doing something wrong and then it gets back to a parent and then becomes my fault. So if it's very clearly laid out and the AUP sets a culture of plagiarizing that is wrong, and just a culture of teaching kids how to use the internet and how to use all the information out there in a legal way, I think that would help alleviate a lot of the problems that we see in the classroom. But some classrooms are a little closer to that than others. But hopefully everyone's moving in the right direction. So overall, that pretty much sums it up. Just the most interesting thing to me is that the peer-to-peer sharing really didn't have an effect on record sales. I guess you kind of assume it does, but then, when I really thought about it, I was like, I was downloading like a Britney Spears song. I would not have gone and paid $15 for a whole Britney Spears album. But and then just all the copyright issues and liability in the classrooms. It really does make you think as a teacher more, and to think more carefully too about what I'm using and what I'm providing to my students, and what copyright issues I'm violating, and if I'm being fair, even within the fair use policy. So it's really made me think about a lot of things and a lot of interesting things, and it's a very relevant topic, and I really enjoyed reading about it, and I'm going to be watching lots of stuff a little more closely in the news here. So that's about it. Thanks for watching.